If I was in that jungle, the first thing I would say to him, I would say, Nigel Farage, I don't know you as a person. I'm going to find out while we're here. But I have to categorically say that I cannot stand you. I hate what you have done to this country. Brexit is an absolute disaster. It has ruined people's lives. And I believe that you have lied and been deceitful to the British public in order to get what you wanted. And I can't stand you for that. I think that would be where I start. As always, with my Dry Me videos, I'll timestamp all the various different topics down below that I'm going to talk about. It's only Wednesday, and there's already been quite a few things to talk about this week. I want to talk about Cameron, obviously, Braverman. I want to talk about Jeremy Corbyn on Piers Morgan. The guy really doesn't help himself, does he? Jesus Christ. I want to talk about just my further feelings once I've sort of stepped back and assessed the situation that happened at the weekend, my further feelings about the demonstrations and the violence and the racism over the weekend in London. So yeah, let's start it off. The big news at the start of the weekend was David Cameron coming back, wasn't it? And Suella Braverman being sacked. People call this the adults coming back in the room, don't they? You hear this sort of stuff a lot. The Tories going back to tried and tested David Cameron, you know, moving away from the right. I find this so fascinating when I hear this. I mean, David Cameron is literally the most right-wing on economics. His economic policy is the most right-wing we've ever had from the previous, what, 5 is it? I lost count. 5 prime ministers. I mean, you could argue Liz Truss was more right-wing on the economy, but she didn't hang around long enough to even implement any of that stuff. If you're talking about actually implementing policy, further privatisation of the NHS, reductions in welfare, in benefits, in public spending, you can't get any more. That is the essence of right-wing economics. He's the most right-wing PM that we've had. So this sort of moving away from the right, I mean, I guess it's more right-wing social issues, isn't it? On being tough on immigration and stuff like this. Maybe he's a move away from that. And the adults back in the room. I hate this. I really hate this. But I mean, when I assess it, when I look at it, it's probably not about. I mean, they haven't got many moves. The Tories haven't really got many more moves that they can make, really. And this is probably, I guess, a good move. I guess people that aren't really engaged in politics massively would see David Cameron as a much more safer pair of hands. You know, he's got experience. Other than these sort of wild people like Braverman, Patel, Mogg, all these sorts that are a little bit loony. Maybe it seems like a bit more stability. Maybe it might look good on the floating voters, the people in the centre, and I can see that really. Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good move for them. Is he up to any sort of power play? Does he want the top job back? I can't see that. I think it's a good move from Sunak to have someone around him like that that's going to let's get into this. Right, I've got to drive along the seafront. I've just gone this way because there's roadworks, so let me get in the right lane. Bear with me a second. Yeah, I think it's a good move for Sunak to have someone around that you can trust, that knows not going to stab you in the back, because that's what every Tory seems to do at the moment, isn't it? Any Tory that you put in a position of power is there ready to stab you in the back. Suella Braverman sent her letter to Sunak yesterday. I haven't read it all. I can't be arsed with it. Just piss off, out of my existence. You're gone. Hopefully you can just get out of my head, get out of my brain. But I mean, we'll get on to Braverman's sacking. It's such a weird thing. I still can't get over this right-wing obsession with this woman. She speaks for us. She speaks for ordinary people. You hear this one all the time, don't you? She speaks for anyone that's really anti-immigration is speaking for ordinary people. Are they speaking for ordinary people? Who is the ordinary people that really care about this stuff? It's a small minority. It is a small minority of these right-wing thugs that we saw in London at the weekend. It's a small minority. It's not the ordinary people. Ordinary people do not like Suella Braverman, and I'm very confident in saying that. Ordinary people don't like her. So this garbage that she speaks for ordinary people is utter shite. It's utter shite. And like I say, I haven't read a resignation. I just want her to just exit my brain now and leave it forever. Will she come back? I don't know. Out of the ones, if the Tories get completely crashed in the next election, if they do decide to go more right wing, then I don't think Braverman is top choice for that. I think it would be Farage. I think it would be Mog. I think Braverman will be low down on that list. And talking about Farage, actually, I didn't put that at the start, but we need to talk about him going on I'm a Celebrity. I'm incredibly pissed off about this. And I don't know who's going to be in with him. I don't know any of these celebrities. I looked at a few names. I don't really know any of them. But is he going to manipulate their minds? Is he? Because the one thing about Farage, I can't stand the man, but he is incredibly good at getting his point across and incredibly good at persuading people's opinions. And this is what fears me about him being on I'm a Celebrity. Is he going to persuade people with his opinions across the country? Is anyone in there going to stand up to him? Is anyone politically minded in that? So I don't know who these people are, to be honest. Majority of these celebrity shows, they're mind-numbingly dumb people. I don't mean to be rude, but it's just the case. They're stupidly dumb people, which is a recipe for disaster. If Nigel Farage is in the jungle with a bunch of empty-headed, dumb, ignorant people, he'd be able to persuade them all of his argument and come across great. But I'm hoping there's going to be some sort of politically illiterate people in there that would actually stand up and have a decent conversation with him. I know I bloody would if I was in that jungle. Straight away. If I was in that jungle, the first thing I would say to him, I would say, Nigel Farage, I don't know you as a person. I'm going to find out while we're here. But I have to categorically say that I cannot stand you. I hate what you have done to this country. Brexit is an absolute disaster. It has ruined people's lives, and I believe that you have lied and been deceitful to the British public in order to get what you wanted, and I can't stand you for that. I think that would be where I start. And I just love it if someone in the jungle has got that mindset to stand up to him. But I'm not confident about that, and my biggest fear is the fact that he's going to come out good. Maybe he's going to get his points across to stupid, dumb people, and I don't know, we'll see. But maybe it'll all be worth it to see him eat a witchetty grub or something. But that's the thing. I never watched this show. In fact, it was Hancock last year, wasn't it? But isn't there normally someone that the public pick on to do all these tasks? I mean, that will be the silver lining, wouldn't it? Usually the public pick on someone because they love seeing them squirm, eating witchetty grubs and going down a tunnel with snakes and stuff. So hopefully the public will do this to Farage and keep voting him in for every single one of these tasks, so he has to constantly eat bugs, get in tunnel with spiders. I'd love that. I'd love seeing him squirm with spiders and snakes and stuff. That would be good. I guess that will be some good stuff to come out of this. But yeah, he's going to put his right-wing garbage in mainstream TV, and that's what I don't really like. I really don't like. Anyway, I got a bit off track there, started talking about Farage, didn't I? So I've done Cameron, Braverman, Farage. Next is Jeremy Corbyn, I guess. Oh God, this guy, he never helps himself, does he? I mean, I've been very clear about my opinions on Jeremy Corbyn over the course of my channel. I've talked about him quite often, and when it comes to domestic policy and what he would have done with the economy in this country and high taxes, to invest in public services and sorting out the things we desperately need, like housing, and sorting out homelessness and the NHS, I'm 100% behind him. I agree with him on economics and domestic policy, how he would have changed this country for the better. I've never been fond of his foreign policy. I've always thought that he is not the best person to be a leader, because he makes so many mistakes, And this Piers Morgan show, if you haven't seen it, is one of them. I'll get into it in a minute. But he just plays into the right-wing media's hands, doesn't he? When he doesn't sing the national anthem, when he just does all these things where he just shoots himself in the foot all the time. You know, I know he's not a politician, but I always thought that if only we could have had someone instead of Jeremy Corbyn, like Mick Lynch, that shares all the same economic policies as him, but is just comes across to the general public a lot better. Jeremy Corbyn just shoots himself in the foot all the time, and this Israel-Palestine thing has always been one that another thing that has played into the right-wing media's hands over the last few years. You know, we know that he does have well, basically, what happened on the show is that he didn't want to class Hamas as a terrorist organisation. If you haven't seen the clip, Piers Morgan permanently plying him with the question, is Hamas a terrorist organisation? Is Hamas a terror organisation? Wouldn't let it drop, and Jeremy Corbyn got incredibly angry, and he came across just like a little kid, and he wouldn't answer the question. I guess if I get into his headspace of where he's at, I mean, he obviously, I think he definitely has connections with people in Hamas, but his theory is the fact that to resolve this problem, diplomacy has to be done, that two sides have to talk to each other, and it's quite important to have people like Corbyn that can speak to either side. You know, he got a lot of flack for this during the troubles in Ireland, and having spoken to people, Jerry Adams, and you know, people in the IRA and stuff. But I think it's incredibly important to have a backbench MP like that can talk to those sides, because these things ultimately always have to come to diplomacy. You have to find a diplomatic way out of this, and you need to talk to both sides. And I guess he doesn't want to piss off Hamas if there's a chance of being able to get some sort of conversation and some sort of diplomacy in order to sort out this god-awful situation that we find ourselves in. It's hard, but if you're condemning their actions, which he's quite happy to do, the awful stuff that Hamas done in Israel, the people taken hostage, and the music festival. I mean, he's come out and said that's like terrorist action, so why not just go further and just say they're a terrorist group? I'm sure you can still get your connections and still find a diplomatic way of talking to these people. He just, I don't know, man, he just digs himself a grave, doesn't he? This is why I was, I love his ideas for this country when he was Labour leader. I love his economic plan, and I agree with so much of it. But I was never fond of him, the one. He's not a leader. He's not a leader. What's your thoughts? I know it's, Jeremy Corbyn is one of those things on my channel that seems to be very, very 50-50. People love him, people hate him on my channel. What are your thoughts on what happened? Should he have just answered Piers' question and said that they're a terrorist organisation? I don't know. It's tough. So, what else we got this? So finally, I guess I'll end with, I've had a bit more reflection over the last couple of days. I put out a video entitled "I've Never Been So Ashamed of This Country," and at the time, just watching all the footage from the weekend over in London, the blatant racist abuse on train stations on broad daylight in front of thousands of people, it made me incredibly sad about this country, that the fact that this is happening. And I titled the video "I'm ashamed of being British" at the moment, and I was at the time, but with a bit of reflection, and after chatting to some of you guys in the comment section of that video, you know, I think that's the wrong attitude to have, because you're completely ignoring what we should be proud of, which was the supposed 300,000 people that were marching for a ceasefire in London, but other estimates put it more at about 800,000. You know, that's what we should be proud of. We shouldn't be ashamed of the few hundred thugs that decided to descend on London and cause fights with the police. We should be looking at the 800,000 people that came to London and peacefully protested for a ceasefire in Palestine. and the mix of people that were there. You know, when you speak to people that were at the march, you know, families, kids, prams, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, atheist, everyone represented at this march. And just, of course, there was some horrible anti-Semitic chants that happened, but this was such a tiny minority, especially when you look at 800,000 people that were there just to peacefully march and demonstrate the fact that they're sick of war, they're sick of babies dying and women and children needlessly dying, civilians dying. They've had enough, and they're going to show to the government. And this week, aren't they? They're doing a vote on whether the British government should have a push for a ceasefire. And I don't know how that's going to go, whether you're going to have a few rogue Labour MPs, we'll see, but that's another conversation after that happens, I think. But in the end, I don't know how much good that position will do anyway, because you have to have a ceasefire on both sides. Will Hamas do, you know, I don't know, I'm not the one to have that conversation. But yeah, I should, instead of feeling ashamed about the small amount of thugs that descended and gave racist abuse to people on the station, and you know, we all should be proud of the 800,000 people that stood up to our government and said, we've had enough, we want to call for a ceasefire. We should be proud of that, and the different communities that come together and the different races. You know, the examples that I made in my video of the fact that we don't mix enough. Different peoples, different religions, different races. We need to mix more, and the fact is, you know what, the overwhelming of us do. We do. It's a small percentage that refuse to budge on this, and that march represented that. 800,000 people strong, of all religions. Let's let these people cross. Come on. All religions, all races, all genders, and everything coming together. So I think that's where I'll end the video today. I feel much better about it now. I really do. I was a bit sad after that weekend looking at the footage, but I feel much better after talking to you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. And that's where I'll end the video. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe up top. And if you enjoyed the video, put a like on the video. It really helps me out. Another video up there if you want to check that out as well. Till next time, take care.